this computer. Wait,
Hello, welcome. Hi, my name is Cecilia Young. I'm with the Hinwood Institute. I'm based in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm so happy to be Barb's sidekick today for this amazing masterclass, how to deal with difficult people at work. It's great to see all your faces, and thank you so much for joining us early and on time. I know you want to get right into the content. I just want to let you know that this is Barb's most popular masterclass, and she is quite sought after for this content. She's going to be sharing a lot of case studies. She's going to be sharing really practical content that you will be able to put into practice today. So be sure to take a lot of notes. And over to you, Barb. I'm looking forward to being a part of this session.
awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Cecilia. I'm just, if you see me looking down, looking at my phone, I'm just making sure no one's having difficulty getting into the session. Sometimes people send a little message, but it looks good so far. Um, uh, Sorry, I'm just doing two things at once. And Cecilia, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you don't mind, is if you don't mind opening up TrueBlue and just have check the conversation and see if anyone's sending messages there. And I'm going to share my screen. You've all done very well. Congratulations on passing the technical challenges of getting into this call. It's always a challenge getting everything coordinated. I hope, Suchi, you've got your audio sorted out and you can hear me. Please feel free at any time, like Cecilia said, to open up the chat if you would like to, and share some thoughts, some comments, anything that's useful for you. You can open up your mic. I would love to hear from you. If you've got any feedback, and this is interactive, so it's not something you're just going to put on the background and have running while you're trying to do some other work. I would say close down all those tabs that you've got open. Be present, because this is training for you, and I want your feedback. I want you to pop in the chat or open up your mic and go, "Oh, I so relate to this. This really resonates with me." And Lisa said, my colleague Sonia sends her apologies. She's been called away for an unplanned issue. It's a busy time of the year, Lisa. There's been a few people that have sent messages to me this morning saying they've had other things. So thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. So what I'm going to kick off, I'm assuming you can see my slides. Cecilia, you can see my slides, can't you? It's all good. Yeah, all good. Yeah, she's nodding her head. I often like to start off training talking about all of these different elements that impact upon our capacity to feel good at work. We want everyone, Cecilia and I are really passionate about supporting people to enjoy going to work, to feel motivated and want to come to work every day, and not feel that dread because they're dealing with difficult people at work, which is obviously what we're talking about today, having to deal with really, really difficult people. And let me tell you, I am so busy this week doing mediations. I'm an accredited mediator, and even in a small town like Alice Springs with a population of 25,000 people, I still get pretty busy doing mediations. So if you are in conflict with someone, don't feel alone, because it is something that a lot of people have to deal with. The goal, though, as I said, is for you to feel inspired and motivated to come to work each day and enjoy the relationships that you have with people at work. And Cecilia and I have kind of, through looking at the work that we do, we're so aligned in the work that we do in supporting people at work. I used to have some boring names around this wheel. However, this is more aligned to Cecilia and I and what we do. And so if all of these things are functioning really well, it's a bit like a health check, right? When you go to the doctor, you get your blood pressure, your blood sugars and all of those things, your iron levels. If everything is tracking really well, then you should feel good at work. So if you can manage your time, if you can work well together, if you can master that emotional intelligence and the stress management, communicating well with others, and finding ways to feel good at work, being able to manage your own workplace well-being and culture. And the mission control is just about you being in control and also leading others. So when all those things are aligned, then we feel great. The top three things that people tell me when they're feeling the stresses at work is I'm overwhelmed, I'm overworked, or I'm just over it. I'm just over this. There's nothing worse. And then you can start feeling like you're not being true to yourself. You're not being the person you set out to be. You can feel negligent and off course. You shouldn't be feeling like that. I want you, all of us want you to feel good at work. You should feel valued and appreciated. You should feel like you've got solutions and options available to you, and being able to make strategic choices, not just for your team, but also for yourself in terms of what you want for your career and where you would like to go. And once you're tracking amazingly and passionate and motivated, people will go, wow, what are they doing? You become the go-to person. That's where we want you to get to. So when we're talking about the difficult people that we have to deal with at work, I want you, you don't have to share. This is not something you have to share, but I want you to think about someone you are currently dealing with, someone in your past. See if you can recognize some of these traits that I'm going to share with you. And what we're going to do, what I'm going to share with you is some solutions. So if you've got someone like this in your workplace right now, or someone you're dealing with, take down some notes of the strategies that may support you to navigate this challenging relationship. Or potentially think about people from your past. And the beautiful thing about these difficult relationships, once you get through them, they teach you a lot in terms of your skills and capability if you can learn to adapt to these situations. So let's kick it off. Let's start with the first one. I'm going to look at the bully, the workplace bully. The bullies often has a fear of lack of control. They are motivated by their power and control over others, and their behavior is that they like to humiliate and intimidate, manipulate, dominate, all those eight words. And I honestly think that this behavior is a bit of a reaction to them not feeling in control. So then they try to exert their control over others. I think that that's where it's coming from. That's just my opinion. Now, a bit of a disclaimer here. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an organizational psychologist either. However, I'm a coach and a mediator. So I see what happens when these things fall apart. A bully will often be very out there. They're very clear of their intentions. They're abusive, although they do spread rumors, gossip, and can do what we call in Australia the white anting, which means they like termites. They eat away at the foundations of the structure of an organization. They can exclude people. Now, if you look at in Australia, the legislation around bullying and harassment, if people are intentionally excluding you, that's one of the classifications that comes under bullying and harassment. So they're intentionally excluding you from meetings, information, resources. They perhaps are undermining your work as well. They are insecure and very reactive to situations. Um, and they are going to feel threatened. And so that's why I think they have those reactions. Very impulsive, very emotional. However, I think what's the one good thing about a bully compared to some of the other characters that I'm going to share with you is you can sometimes negotiate with a bully. You can convert them. They will show remorse, and if you confront them, they will, in some occasions, acknowledge their behavior. All right, so I'm going to give you some tips, okay? And if anyone else has got any tips you want to pop in that have worked for you in dealing with bullies, I'd love to hear them in the chat or open up your mic. But I'm going to give you some that I've got here that may be helpful. So the first one that I want you to write down is setting firm boundaries. So this is where you need to be very clear. One of the things I often talk about in mediation is making a request. So that might be, please don't call me Babsicles. It's not my name. My name is Barbara. Can you please stop calling me that? I feel intimidated or I feel undermined in the meeting when you do that. So if you make a very clear request, then bullies sometimes will back off or they'll accommodate your request. Next one, document everything. HR really always want you to document everything. So if you can back things up with an email, but if you can't, and it's a corridor conversation, just keep a little note, a date and your request. It may have been a verbal request. Just in passing, you've said something. This is a really difficult one, this next one, but it's something that's really important to focus on. And this is what I support people with in mediation. Don't engage emotionally. Don't let your emotions take over. And it's not to say that you don't deserve to have emotions and you don't you shouldn't feel hurt or offended. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is try to put a little bit of emotional buffer there so that you're just feeling with facts and information rather than putting lots of energy and emotion into it. Because bullies, that's what they tend to feed off. And sometimes they're saying things or doing things to fish for a reaction from you. So if you can stay calm, which I know is hard, and Cecilia and I have a lot of techniques and strategies to be able to help you in the moment if it is really stressful, that's what you want to try and do. If you can, and you may want to, is find out in your workplace what the grievance policy is and process. Do you have to formalize this? Do you need to put in some kind of process to be able to formalize your complaint or your grievance? So it's worth having conversations with HR to find out what are my options, what are available to me. And sometimes it might be mediations. Um, the other thing is to find out, sometimes you can find allies or support networks within your team as well. Now, this is not about being gossipy. This is about who are the people that you can bounce off or may have observed things or can give you some perspective. So who can you call upon to just talk this through? If it's someone within the organization, that's great, but maybe it's an external coach or mentor. It's not uncommon for me to be coaching people through difficult situations. And if you're an employee, sometimes it's an EAP provider. You can get counseling or conflict coaching through your EAP provider, or you can do it privately as well. So, really, the most important thing with a bully is to stand your ground with their aggression. Don't give in and don't go for attack, but be assertive. Make sure that you communicate what you want and what you need in order to do your job and what your clear request is to them. Okay. Because they look for easy targets. They're a bit lazy bullies. They'll just try to dominate you just to get what they want. All right, so the next one, hopefully you got some notes down. I will be sharing with you a cheat sheet for this as well, but it's good if you can take some notes because you'll get a lot more out of it if you can take some notes. We've now got the narcissist. Narcissists, I think, are really interesting ones. And narcissist is a term that people like to throw that around as an insult or to claim, my ex-husband's a narcissist or whatever it is, or my mother's a narcissist. But it's quite interesting when you look at what constitutes that narcissistic behavior. And I want you to think of a narcissist who's kind of missing a gene. There's something that it's like people that have, I don't know, the neurodivergent or the disabilities. There's just something that they're not able to grasp. They just don't get it. So it's not always malicious. It's just there's something missing in their personality kind of DNA. So what they feed off is personal admiration, validation, and superiority. You kind of know that, right? They can be quite emotionally manipulative, a narcissist, self-absorbed, and I think this is the one that they lack. So when we talk about emotional intelligence and empathy, that's something that they really struggle with. It's a skill they don't have in their communication. It's one they're lacking. And so I know it's hard, but if you can understand that that's a deficit in their communication capabilities. if you have any level of compassion for a narcissist. They will love to take credit for other people's work. They blame others. It's everybody else's fault. It's not my fault. I wouldn't do that because I'm amazing. It's everybody else that's not great. They exaggerate their achievements, gaslighting, and seek excessive praise. So I'm curious, does anyone want to have a go at defining what gaslighting means? You can open up your mic if you want to, or you can pop it in the chat. It's a term again like the narcissist that gets thrown around. Anyone going?
It's definitely a term that it has been popularized or commonly heard of in media, in popular culture.
Yeah. No one going to have a go? Ah, here we go. Lisa said stating something that isn't true as if it is. Oh, I like that, Lisa. That's a great definition. And when I started exploring some of these behavioral traits, I found gaslighting to be really, really interesting. My husband's here and he's got the doors closed, but I accuse him of gaslighting all the time. So he'll if he's listening into my masterclass, he'll go, "No, you're talking about me again." So gaslighting, there was a movie that was made. The term comes from a movie. Oh, we got some more responses. Let's see what we've got here. Gemma said, using manipulation to make you question yourself or your own behavior. That is a beautiful definition, Gemma. Pretending they didn't hear of the explanation or task even when they did. Yeah, you've got some really good responses here. Turning it around to make it sound as if it's your fault. Yes, yes. So you're the problem. Overreacting and making bad comments. Yes, Katie, that's a good explanation. You're all doing really well here. So it's you're the problem, not me. That's why narcissists will do that, right? It's all you. I didn't do anything. So the term comes from a movie that was around in the 50s and it was in America and I think it was America and it was set in a time when in the cities they used to have the lighting in houses was through with gas pipelines. And this man wanted to get rid of his wife and institutionalize her. So he was going to try and make her think that she was mad. So he would alter the lights all the time. So they were flickering or dim or going off and on. And she would say, "Oh, there's something wrong with the lights." And he'd say, "No, there's not. There's nothing. It's you. There's something wrong with you." So he was trying to make her think she was mad so he could get rid of her. So that's where the term comes from. A classic gaslighting, you'll all understand this reference. If I said to my partner, if my partner said to me, "Sorry, you're not wearing that, are you?" I would go, "What? What's wrong with what I'm wearing? Do I look unprofessional? Is it dirty? Is it not flattering? What's wrong? Don't you like what I'm wearing?" And he could say, "Hey, I didn't say, I just asked, is that what you're wearing? What's the big deal?" Not that my husband ever says that to me, but it's a common one, right? You kind of get the picture. So that's what a narcissist would love to do. It's not me, it's you. Why are you getting so emotional? It's not a big deal. All I said was, la la la. So these are the kind of things that I want you to look out for with different people. It's not to say everyone that gaslights you is a narcissist, but a narcissist likes to use gaslighting. Okay, what else have we got? Their responses, oh my goodness, they really are emotive. They can be very sensitive to criticism, burst into tears, always injured, and defensive, overly defensive. It's not so direct, this bullying, right? It's not, I feel like the bully is lazy, whereas the narcissist is just incompetent. The narcissist just lacks that emotional intelligence, and they can be very superficially charming. So it's very difficult to work with a narcissist because you can't, it's harder to make them self-aware, whereas the bully you can kind of educate them a little bit. This one's a bit trickier. All right, so here's some tactics that you can use. And again, if anyone's got any other suggestions that has worked for them, please open up your mic or drop it in the chat. I'm just going to give you some that I've got from my research and experience. The thing with the narcissist, this is really hard, is try not to take it personally. It's really difficult. But if you can detach from their behavior, their need is to belittle others so that they boost their own ego. So that can be really sting sometimes and really hurt. If you know, if you can recognize that it's a flaw, apply your own emotional intelligence and recognize it's a flaw in their behavioral competencies, then you can accommodate it a little bit. Not saying you have to put up with it, but you're more informed. Here's the other one that you can use to your advantage. Use flattery strategically. Stroke their ego, boost their ego if it's going to support them. Use that to your advantage. And so you can frame things in ways that makes them feel like it's their idea and can appeal to their ego. This is going to make you look great. I value your opinions. What do you think about this idea? You want to avoid confrontation over small things. This is the kind of thing where you go, which battles am I going to fight? Is it really worth fighting this battle? Because they're not going to own things, take responsibility, and they might retaliate. So maybe just let some things go. If you need to, you might have to, if your leader is a narcissist, sometimes I have to coach people through this, is what you have to apply what we call managing up. Have people heard of managing up before? You can put a yes or a no in the chat. Have you heard of managing up before? Yeah, no, a few of you haven't. So okay, for those of you that haven't heard it before, what it means is that you manage your leader, you manage their behavior, or you support them to improve their leadership capabilities. So you gently guide them and give them feedback in ways for them to improve their capacity as a leader. So if your narcissistic leader is not supporting you, you want to be able to utilize feedback strategies and methods to be able to guide them to be more effective as a leader. And really, that is just about very clear communication, boundaries, and not being emotional. Make sure the narrative doesn't get twisted. Here's the tip for this one is control your own narrative. You don't want them to reconstruct the narrative to say that it was their idea and they came up with it and they did all the work, because they might try to take credit. So really, bottom line is the best strategy is not to get drawn into the drama. Yeah, not to get drawn into the games. Stand your ground, stay neutral, and protect your own energy and your own reputation with these ones. Grey rock them and get out of there. Lisa, what does grey rock mean? I've heard that term before. Do you want to open your mic and tell me what that means?
Yeah, I'm happy to, Barbara. Uh, it's where you're as interesting as a grey rock and there's no drama
Yeah,
to feed the cycle. Yeah.
I love that.
Mm. It's
So
kind of that pick your battles vibe.
yeah, and so you don't engage, right? You don't give them any bait to
Correct. Yeah.
bite on.
Yeah.
I love
Just
that. I
the
love that.
professionalism and then polish your CV and
And get out of there.
find a new job. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm just writing grey rock, Lisa, because I love that. I really love that term. And I have
Yeah,
heard
it's
that
starting to
before.
grow in popularity a bit like gaslighting is starting to become quite
Yeah.
mainstream language. I
Yeah.
think with all the coercive control uh, narrative, it's starting to really show up a lot more. So,
It's a
yeah.
good one. And it's a
Mm.
good visual to remember. I'm a grey rock.
Yep.
I'm a grey rock.
Yep. Just save your color for other people.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Hey, Gemma, good to have you back. I'm about to see you in the chat. Thank you for letting us know. All good. Lovely to see you. All right. I know, Lisa, sometimes the good thing about narcissists is in some ways you can still be safe because you can manipulate them. The one where I would definitely say exit is this one. Polish up your resume and get out of there if you have to, right? So the psychopath is they're a little bit different to a narcissist in the sense that they are very intelligent with their power and utilize it for greed. Gordon Gekko, remember in Wall Street, greed is good. Sometimes I have to Cecilia remind me who the character is because I forget his name. But that's a great example of the psychopath where it's collateral damage, get what you want despite any casualties along the side. They're very manipulative, cunning, charming, charismatic, very powerful. And sometimes the power is just for the sheer joy, not for any purpose other than it gives them a sense of pleasure. Very calculated, can be cold and remorseless, but also appear to be charming. So, they are a wolf in sheep's clothing. They are very deceptive and incredibly manipulative, and they enjoy causing harm, and they're charming to gain trust. Now, I've seen this, it's quite scary. I've seen this with somebody that I've been involved in professionally, and what they do is recruit people in terms of their supporters with their charm to infiltrate or attack others. That's my experience of working with somebody who has these kind of traits. And they won't have empathy. It's very difficult for them to understand what other people are feeling because they just don't care. They really don't care. They don't have that sense of guilt, and they can fake their emotions to manipulate others. Whereas a narcissist tends to wear their emotions on their sleeve, whereas the psychopath is a lot more manipulative with that. Far more strategic. They're far more planned, whereas a narcissist is quite reactive. Um, and they've got a big picture, the long game. They're in for the long game. They've got stamina. So what we know, here's some interesting things about psychopaths. 1% of the general population meets the clinical criteria for a psychopath. Uh, but what's interesting and no surprises is this figure is higher in corporate settings. And studies have found that 3 to 4% of individuals in senior business roles demonstrate psychopathic traits. I bet some of you are going, yep, I've worked with one. Most people feel that they have. There was a study that was done in Australia in 2011. Yes, Gemma said 100%. It's more evident in corporate settings. Yeah, it is horrible, Cecilia. So this is what you'll find really interesting. A study was focused on white collar managers. 5.7% could be classified as psychopathic, and 10.4 identified as dysfunctional with psychopathic characteristics. So they're out there. There was a study done of in the corporate environment, and I think this was done in the US, and there was 261 participants, and they found in this corporate environment, this was corporates in a specific industry. And I find this really interesting and really bizarre. Why this industry? It was the supply chain management industry. And they found in that industry, in the corporate environment, 21% exhibited clinical levels of psychopathic traits. Why that industry? Were these self-assessments or other assessing leaders? That's a great question, Mads, and I don't know, haven't got the actual reference of this in my notes. Some of this has come from psychology.org. So I need to go back and look where the studies were done. However, what I'm going to say is it's probably psychological assessments, which is an external person that's doing it. Because I'm not going to say that I think I'm a narcissist. I'm not going to say I think I'm a psychopath. I'm going to say that, you know, it's within my rights to do these things. So I'm going to assume that's psychological assessment. I mean, it does say in the stats that it's a psychological assessment. Great question, though. I'll see if I can dig it up for you where the citing that research, because I've just got brief notes in my slide notes. So we want some strategies, right? And if you've had to deal with a psychopath, I'm curious to know what tactics worked for you. I'm just going to share with you, if you got your pen ready, is some things that you might want to do. So the first one is stay under their radar. They will look, you don't want to be in their sights. So they see people as pawns, so don't get roped into what they are doing. The less useful you are to them, the better. Don't show weakness because they'll exploit it. And I definitely can say that I've seen that as well. Cecilia's said in here, a well-known 2010 study by Babiak, Newman, and Hare, that's obviously an organisation, right, Cecilia, of individuals in management development programs found that approximately 3% scored in the psychopathic range. Was that in the US, Cecilia? Where's that?
I'm not sure. I'm going to look that up, but there
Yeah.
is a study in Australia which I'm looking up and I will put in the chat.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Um, okay, the thing with a narcissist too is they will make overarching claims to things. They will cite their expertise, their qualification, whatever, and make it sound like they're right. So you want to make sure that this is the next point, stick to facts and policies. So they won't like it that you're right and they're wrong, but you want to make sure that you're citing clear information because they like to twist words. So you want to keep, again, any communication written and formal. Don't trust your verbal because they will twist and manipulate situations. They're very, very clever at doing that. Don't get caught out being one-on-one. So avoid isolation with them. You want to make sure that when you have conversations, it's in front of other people because they'll go back on it. They'll say, I never said that. No, well, I would never say that. What made you say that I would say that? And they're very convincing, right? So they'll make you look like you're the fool. If you can, get out of there. Exit. It's very difficult to change the behavior of this person, and they're so incredibly manipulative that it's dangerous. So if they're really a full-blown workplace psychopath in a leadership role, they're just going to destruct the place and make it toxic, and you'll never get anywhere, and you're just fighting a hard battle. So if you can, get out, unfortunately. It's important more so than ever to be neutral, to be the grey rock, as Lisa said. Don't give them any ammunition because a psychopath really takes hold of it and uses it to their advantage, and they're going to use it against you. Gemma has said, I find that a lot of psychopaths are in those higher roles. They definitely are, Gemma. You are spot on. CEO, CFO, executive roles, because they fight their way to the top and step on anybody to get there. They will throw people under the bus, do what they need to get to the top. Oh, Cecilia's put the link in there for the study. So thank you. And Suja said, if we have all these policies around reporting these behaviors, how come they get to stay, but we are the ones that move on? I know, right? Because they're so manipulative and so convincing. That's why if you can exit. Narcissists, you can kind of retrain them. A bully that they can apologize and adapt. But a psychopath is incredibly manipulative. And I would not be surprised if I've had a psychopath in in mediation who's very convincing and very charming and very agreeable, but then will go off and do what they want anyway. That's their tactic. So yeah, they're very skilled and they've done this. That's why they get to those high roles too, hey Gemma, because they've put a lot of practice in manipulating and getting what they want to get there. They are skilled at turning people against each other. So you've got to be very careful if there's one around who you consider an ally, because they can be very persuasive to somebody you consider an ally and get information out of them and then use that against you. And I've seen that happen as well. So you've got to be very careful if one of these is around engaging in office politics. You've got to be extra cautious. Yeah, Lisa, I agree with you. The business success capitalism could quite involve that reward the psychopath. The Gordon Gekko character in Wall Street is a classic example, and there are exceptions. You're right. Yeah, Gemma, they walk all over others to climb to the ladder. That is totally it. They use people as pawns. They have no thought or care for them. They use them. So I hope you've written down some strategies around that. So if you look at this is the goal that each of these ones have, right? The bully, like I said, is just to be in control of everything. They're probably feeling insecure and that's why they want to be in control and they're using those lazy tactics. The narcissist wants your admiration. They want the praise. They want all the glory. So these are the things you want that could give you signs that this is who you're dealing with and how the emotions are utilized to get what they want as well. And you can see, yeah, the psychopath has no remorse. So there's not a lot you can do with that. So I'm curious in the chat, which ones have you experienced in your working life? Have you experienced a bully, a narcissist, a psychopath, all of them, two of them? I'm curious to know if you want to put in the chat or you can open up a mic. Oh, let's had a bully and a narcissist. Yeah. And I feel like all of us wanted to in work. Yeah. Bully and a narcissist. Yeah. I've dealt with a bully, 3 in real life. Oh, wow. It's so incredibly exhausting. 1 or 2 at work. See, look, we've all, thankfully not in their radar. We've all dealt with these kind of people. Gemma said all of it. Wow. So hopefully your radar is a little bit stronger now in picking up some of these traits. But the reality is when you look at this chat, all of us have dealt with people like this in our working life. 71% of US workers have experienced a toxic boss. Cecilia, what would you describe as toxic? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. How would you define a toxic boss?
Well, it's all of these and not identifying a bully from a psychopath, just somebody who's very difficult to work with.
Mm. And makes the
Someone,
environment, like I think it's somebody that makes the environment really unpleasant. Anyone else got any thoughts on that? How would you describe a toxic boss or a toxic work environment? But if there's one person in particular that's making that, yeah, micromanaging can turn toxic even if the person has good intention. We're going to talk about micromanagers in just a second, Ola.
Barbara, I've seen toxicity where you've got a fairly incompetent manager who isn't prepared to address that and then leads you as if they're all the things. And it's hard to address. They're not necessarily um, on the list, but they just don't seem to know what they're doing, which just makes life so difficult.
Yeah, yeah. And they're probably trying to hide their incompetence, Lisa.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's really interesting is because the more transparent and vulnerable you are as a leader, the more trust that you will have. But a lot of people feel that they cannot show any flaws or um, I'm going to say weakness
Mm.
because they think that they might lose their capacity as a leader. Yeah,
Yeah, it
so they
just seems to
overcompensate.
create like this whole garden of odd things to deal with.
Mm,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. No boundaries, Shamista. That's a really boundaries is my favorite word, right? Is in because that's the one I talk about a lot in mediation, and it's one that you want to establish with all of these characters. It's really important what your boundaries are. Gemma said, assess with power, no empathy or compassion, no duty of care, and no accountability. That's a great in terms of that toxic boss. Gemma, you're good at this. I think you've got some experience with this, Gemma. All right, so micromanagers, poor old micromanagers. I feel I've learned to feel some compassion for micromanagers. Because they're struggling, and at least are probably like what you're talking about, and I think Gemma or someone else said in the chat, micromanagers can become toxic. Micromanagers are sometimes people that have moved into positions of leadership because they've been doing their job really well. So they're so scared that if the job's not done well, it's going to reflect poorly on them. So they want to be in control of everything that's happening with their team. So they don't trust the team to do the job well. They really fear failure or loss of control. That's why they're micromanaging. And they're probably feeling the pressure from leadership. They want to impress, they want to show that they're doing the right thing and they're doing a good thing. Probably a perfectionist. They're used to things being of a standard, and they're not wanting to let some things go. And I see this in mediation where people are picking up on everything. And I need to say to people in mediation, particularly if they're a leader, what can you let slide? I know that you are incredibly professional and you want everything to be of the best quality, but what would you be willing to let slide just for the sake of a relationship? So here's some things if you're dealing with a micromanager or you've got a colleague that's dealing with a micromanager or you need to provide some support, here's some tips. These things will help. So the biggest thing you can do is build trust. So you want to be proactive. Give them the information before they ask for it. Let them know that you're on top of things. Rather than having them check in all the time, you let them know. You keep them in the loop. Make sure that the expectations are clear around what it is that are going to come up and what you need to be working on. So what are the boundary lines here? What's the quality of work? Because a micromanager will sometimes change the goalposts. So if you can get that very, very clear from the outset and agree on the checkpoints. You don't need to come and check on me every hour. I'll come and give you a debrief at the end of the day, right? And check in. This is really good in terms of, do you want me to do this independently or do you want me to get you to approve everything? What things can I do independently and what do you need me to improve, for example? So you want to be able to manage up with transparency. So that is providing clear summaries or reports or email updates. Documenting things is really, really helpful. They love dashboards and running things and to know where things are at, and they'll loosen the reins. Gemma said, what's upset me is why do organisations pamper these types of people? Why do organisations not hold them accountable but instead let them go on doing these behaviours and tell the people experience it things like, oh, just ignore it or rise above it and don't let it affect you. This is what makes me upset. Gemma, I hear you. And I'm going to give you my opinion, and I'm going to ask Cecilia for her opinion on this in a moment. My feeling is that a lot of people in organizations don't like conflict. Conflict is not comfortable and they don't want to deal with it. It's very common for me to be dealing with these kind of tensions because it's got to that festery point and then something has to be done. And then they're going, can you fix it? Get them to sort it out, these two. They just can't get along. Make them get along. And sometimes the micromanager is getting things done. So, especially in private enterprise and business, they're probably generating money for the business owner. So they're like, oh, but they're making things happen. I know there's a bit of dysfunction there, but they're getting stuff done and making me money. So whatever needs to be done. Because so again, they're avoiding this festering thing that will actually be the undoing of their business. That's just my opinion, Gemma, in terms of why people tolerate some of this as well, or they're just not aware. Cecilia, what are your thoughts on why this kind of behavior gets tolerated?
Yeah, thanks, Barb. I find that sometimes this behavior is not the same in every setting. So therefore, it's one person's experience, or it could be a team's experience. And for every time that there is a manager like this, I've also heard very often from managers who have problematic direct reports, who's actually causing the conflict. And so therefore, it's hard to say, and we don't know where it started, but it's clear that there is a lack of trust and there is no psychological safety. In fact, the trust is so dysfunctional that these behaviors continue on a regular basis. And depending on who shares their story, you will hear a very different version.
Yes, so true, Cecilia, and I can definitely validate that in mediations, right? I've learnt now, I'll hear the first intake of somebody and go, oh my goodness, what you're experiencing is terrible. I don't say that. In my head, I'm thinking, I can see why you're in conflict. Wow, that's crazy. And then I hear the other side of the story. It's going, oh wow, oh my, I can understand why you're reacting like that. So it's really interesting when you take in all pieces of information. And what's really interesting, Cecilia, and I also mention in mediations, is what you've talked about in psychological safety. And so I talk to people in mediation about how do we have safe conflict? Can we disagree with somebody in a way that's respectful? How can we challenge decisions, ideas, or processes, raise concern about risks, whether it's financial, physical, mental, whatever, in a way that is still respectful and considered, and not going to cause serious, unhelpful conflict. And that's ideally what you want. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add, or any comments or thoughts while we're talking about this in terms of how these are managed in the workplace?
Is there a masterclass on how to have those conversations, Barb?
What's that? What kind of you mean, like having the safe conversations?
How to, yeah, get that really happening within your within the team, but for
Yes,
managers to
Tess.
be able to really take that on board, that just because you're questioning what they've said doesn't mean you're challenging them. You just want to question a direction or what's going on. Why is that happening, to better understand it so you can get on board rather than just being expected to get on
Yeah.
board.
Cecilia does lots of masterclasses on this, Tessa. So look out for them. She's really good at these ones. Yeah.
We
So
do have one coming up, from team dysfunction to high performance.
there you go. Yeah. That's our second last one, I think, for the year. I can't remember which one comes first and second. We've only got two more masterclasses for the year. Paul, were you going to say something? I saw your mic open. Were you going to say something?
So I'm just with a micromanager, like I feel that there's different levels of this even when you talk about micromanagers, because I feel if you work with a team, some people, when I say appreciate micromanagers, but need a micromanager
Yeah.
because sometimes they do lack that focus and you need to micromanage them. But at the same time, I wouldn't say like myself, I'm a full-blown micromanager, but I know that particular people need that from me to make their, you know, to function correctly during the workday, as opposed to other people where I would probably say, don't need it and I can just let them go do whatever they want. So there's a bit of a balance in between that as well. Like I looked at some of these and go, oh God, I do this with some people, but not everybody. So yeah.
That's interesting, Paul. And one of the when we talk about sometimes in developing your leadership capabilities, we talk about how you deal with somebody if they're motivated or not motivated, if they've got skills or they haven't got skills. So if somebody is feeling really deflated and they don't have any skills, you really want to micromanage them. You want to give them short wins and check in quite regularly and tell them how to do something. They need that.
Yeah.
Definitely, Paul. And that's the challenge is you don't want to, a good leader is not the same to everybody. They're adaptive to the communication styles, the learning capabilities, the confidence, all of those things. So I'm glad you raised that, Paul, because it's a good point. Sometimes people do need a little bit more hand holding if their competency levels or their confidence is waning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa said, my pro tip, Tessa, is they often prefer how and what questions rather than why questions. Why questions tend to trigger micromanagers. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, we could go on. We could go on. You've got to do Cecilia's masterclass because we dig a lot more. And I'm going to give you some tips, some language tips as well. Make sure we've, Paul, I know you have to go soon, so you might miss out on those, but they are in the cheat sheet. So if you're working with a micromanager, try and focus on the big picture because that's when you're kind of managing up. You need to go, trust me that I will get to the destination. How I get there might be different to yours. If we can just focus in on the end game, and of course, once again, is setting those professional boundaries. And this is where you want to push back diplomatically. So, do you want me to do this autonomously or do you want me to approve everything? Because it's changing. Either you do or you don't, is kind of, you might want to have that kind of conversation. Use data to justify. Look, you wanted me to get this by this date, and I did do it. You wanted me to do 50%, I'm at 48, so I'm very close. Like whatever is the data that's going to help you to support what you're doing. Sorry, whoops, I jumped a whole heap of slides then. What are some of the things that you can do? What are the different, I'm going to whip through a few now. Once again, there's going to be a cheat sheet, so you can look at some of these. But even just if you can't go, I don't know if it's a micromanager, bully, narcissist, psychopath, which one? Here's just some traits that you might be observing that are annoying you, okay? And what are some potential solutions? So if they're dodging the blame, you've got to keep records. Yeah, you want to keep clear notes and information about what you agreed, what you confirmed. Email's great for that. If they're being controlling, then you want to, that's the micromanager. Just keep them informed, keep them updated, let them know you've got this, okay? So that you can ease off that micromanagement. There might be a narcissist stealing the glory. Make sure you share your accomplishments publicly. If they're intimidating you, so let's say they're creeping into that psychopath, you want to develop your assertive communication skills. So this is a training that I sometimes deliver in workplaces, equipping people with language that ensures that they're professional. They're able to assert themselves, make requests in a way that is not aggressive, but they're also not having to resort to passive behavior. And the bottom line is being able to communicate what you want and what you need in order to do your job. And that is about those boundaries. I can do that, but I'm not doing that. I'll tolerate that, but I won't tolerate that. What are those boundaries? Because we tend to give in and flex. And if you're seeing favoritism, you want to demonstrate your value to the broader team. Sometimes the favoritism is just laziness. So again, a leader feels really comfortable, really friendly with someone, so they're giving them all of the good jobs or the opportunities. So you need to build trust with them and demonstrate your capacity to do that work as well. Nitpicking, probably a micromanager. Do you want to get balanced feedback? So support them to give you feedback that's useful. So you might want to be asking questions like, can you give me a clear indication of what I need to do to develop? What is a good version of whatever it is you're picking apart that I'm doing wrong? And again, I see this in mediation. People will tell me all the things they don't like about the other person. And so I say to them, I am that other person. I am an open book, like a robot. Program me. Tell me what it is that you want me to do that is the right thing. And they will go, I don't know. I said, well, how can you expect the other person to change if you can't give them any direction on what you need them to do to change? And that can be quite confronting for people in mediation. But you want to help that nitpicker to to give you developmental feedback that's going to support you to improve. If someone's being really self-focused, and they're not looking at what the team needs, and they're too focused on their personal goals, let them know that your contributions support their objectives. Let me help you achieve what you want to achieve. I can help you do that. If they're unpredictable, they're constantly changing plans and expectations, the goalposts keep changing. Again, just clear boundaries, document it, set the boundary lines, confirm the priorities. Which are we doing, this or this? Which is more important? Because I can't do both. Which one would you like me to do? So that there's no confusion or comeback. Well, I told you to do this, but yeah, you told me to do this as well. So which is it? And not quite that aggressively. If people are feeling disconnected and they're not really connected to the team or the team dynamics, then you want to obviously help them be engaged by having conversations, sharing insights, supporting collaboration and conversation. Sometimes you have leaders that don't want to give you supervision. They're too busy. You want to stand firm with that, or vice versa, right? And if somebody is unprincipled, so that means that they're tolerating behavior, and this goes along the line of what Gemma was saying, is be very clear about your own integrity. And this is really important. What's the little thing that says, yeah, maintain your integrity and values. What this means is that if somebody is doing something that you find offensive, it's okay for you it's okay for you not to like something, if that makes sense. So if I be very generic, let's say somebody is swearing like a trooper in a professional environment and you feel uncomfortable about it. Maybe other people don't. It's okay for you to say, I'm uncomfortable with that. I feel uncomfortable with that. Can we use different language? So everybody has a right to feel safe and comfortable at work, and for people, to the best of their ability and within reason, be able to accommodate that. And so that may relate to your integrities or values. It may relate to your culture or your upbringing. You don't want to impose too much, but it's nice if people can adapt. All right, we're tracking really well here. I know that there's some people that have had to duck out for other meetings. So I love it that for those of you that are still here. You want to be prepared for any difficult conversations. So Tessa, these are some little things that you can do if you do have to have those difficult conversations. You make sure you've got plenty of time. You don't want to rush talk. So you want to have space where there's not going to be interruptions. They're not going to jump on a call. And if they do, say, would it be okay if you just put your phone down for now? Can we just talk? There's some things I really need to communicate with you. You want as much information as you can. Be prepared going into this information. And what can be useful is to go, these are the key things I want to discuss with you. Whether you're the leader or the person you're talking to is the leader. Allow there to be some very clear structure about the intention of the conversation. And so sometimes it's just a couple of points. I want to go through this, and this with you. And when I'm in mediation with people, in getting them prepped to go into the conversation, what is it you actually want? What do you want to achieve? You'd be surprised how often people actually don't know. They just want to have it out with somebody. They want blood. They want to make them apologize. but what do you actually want? What do you need to do your job? And this is the hard one. What perspective may they have? What could be their challenges? What are their insecurities? What are they struggling with? What do they want? So these are the things that can impact upon the conflict that you're in. And so this is where you can practice empathy and emotional intelligence by seeing what their perspective is. Once again, this is a thing that really shocks people and moves people in motivation when in mediation, when they go, "Oh, I've never thought of it like that. I didn't realize that that was what they were going through. I never stopped to think that that might be what it's feeling like for them." And the best thing you can do is list questions you want to ask. Don't expect to have them all there ready to go. You are in a stress response in these conversations. Have a list of questions ready to go. It's not uncommon for people in these kind of meetings to go, yes, I've asked you that. Yep, yep. Oh, here's another thing. I haven't asked you this question. Da 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 da. So it's okay to have a list of questions to ask in these kind of meetings. Yeah. So, does anyone know this fella here, Adam Drake? Some of you in the territory might be familiar with him. You can put a yes or a no in the chat if you've heard of this man. He's actually nominated for Northern Territory Australian of the Year. So you never know, he might win a prize. When I first saw Adam speak, he works with disadvantaged Indigenous youth, particularly young fellas that are in youth detention, right? He's got dreadlocks. I was like, oh, here we go. Another person coming in with their great idea of how to save these kids, you know? But when I heard him speak, he was extraordinary. He was amazing. And he's really good at engaging with these kids and finding great ways to build bridges and to empower them. But it's hard work, really, really hard work. And so when I saw him speak, there was lots of academics going, how are you trauma informed and what do you do? And he said, I just keep it really simple. These are the simple things that I do that ensure that myself and my team are sustainable. And so much of it is about protecting his own physical, emotional, spiritual energy. So he sets very clear emotional boundaries. He doesn't allow the kids to encroach upon that. He uses observation and curiosity is his biggest thing. Cecilia and I often talk about this. He's always curious and asking questions rather than making assumptions. He wears a uniform. So see, he's got this shirt, he's got this wristband, he's got his bandana. It's kind of like his emotional armor. And when he comes home, the first thing he does is take it off and have a shower. It's him letting the day go and leaving it behind. And he uses visualizations to be able to protect his energy. Cecilia and I often talk about different techniques to help the amygdala hijack. And he uses anchoring techniques and he uses them for himself, but also for these kids when they have to go into court and different things. So how to stimulate their vagus nerve. He uses vagal theory, breathing techniques, a whole range of things to help them self-regulate. And it's all about protecting your own energy in those really sometimes toxic or volatile environments. And he makes sure that he decompresses and unwinds. Anyone else got any strategies that they use to protect their energy? Some people do the superhero pose in front of the mirror. They look at themselves in the mirror. That increases your testosterone levels by doing that. It's one you can try. I'm going to share another one with you. And if you've got some, you open up your mic or pop it in the chat. The cylinder tool, this is a really powerful one. I won't go into too much detail of how this works, but it's essentially you tricking your amygdala, which is that fight or flight part of the brain. It triggers a hormonal response. And so what we can do as a species, like no other species, is use our prefrontal cortex, or the very developed part of our brain, to trick our amygdala, because our amygdala does not know the difference between what is a real threat, like a crocodile going to eat us, or a toxic boss. It just reacts in the same way with chemicals in our body. So what we can do is actually visualize, it sounds crazy, but it works. Visualize a cylinder around you. And this is how you're able to create a bit of an emotional detachment and just focus on the facts and realities of what's going on. So you imagine these words here hitting the cylinder. Your words are not getting, they're not penetrating, they're not penetrating. I've got my shield. They're hitting me, they're hitting the shield and bouncing off. You're not going to get to me. Your words are not going to spear me and hurt me. And you're actually tricking your amygdala. So it just gives you a bit of braking distance. It just gives you a bit of a get myself together space. And it just can make a little bit of a difference. So that power pose I told you, that's you see kids do it, right? Give it a go. Stand in front of a mirror, puff yourself up. Don't enclose yourself like this. Stand with that posture, the posture that you need. Here's a body language trick, and again, the jury's a bit out on this one. It's called the steeple. You seen this one? So if I speak to you like this, doing the steeple, looks like I'm speaking from authority and knowledge, right? But you have to be very careful because there's a character in The Simpsons who does this. Do you know who that is? It's Mr. Burns. So you got to be careful. But there's little body languages that you can do to show I am not going to be intimidated. Yes, Lisa, power pose is great for public speaking. It definitely is. Hold your shoulders back, stand strong, not dominating, but I am not going to be intimidated in this situation, Mr. Psychopath or Narcissist. What we can do in situations, narcissists can be very manipulative with language, so can the psychopaths. So you want to be able to take some information, pull out the data from all the emotion that's going on. So what you're saying is this, right? So what you're doing in that is interpreting what they're saying. Wonder Woman pose is great. Yes, that's right. It's Wonder Woman. I never thought of that, Cecilia. It is so Wonder Woman. Oh my God. Can you see here? I can see if you can see it on my wall. Can you see her? Oh, you might not be able to see it. She's there, standing there. Wonder Woman. um, Sorry, going back to reframing. Interpret what they're saying. Take out what they're saying. Remove all the emotion and the sting and the sarcasm and the gaslighting and all of that, and put it in a context that you can utilize. So if you're dealing with somebody that's doom or gloom, this is a really useful one. So I'm going to give you an example. Someone that you're working with, that you're leading, comes in and says, Bob's an idiot. I hate working with him. He's a fool. He doesn't know what he's doing. If I'm going to reframe it, I'm going to say, so what you're saying is you're having some difficulty working with Bob right now. Have I got that right? I'm stupid. I don't know. I'm always making mistakes. So what you're saying is that there's some challenges that you can learn from. What are the things that we've learned through this experience? So reframing, whether it's for yourself or your colleagues, is a really powerful tool. We do this in mediation all the time. People get really volatile, so we pull out what they're trying to say, we interpret it, give it back in a non-emotive way and say, can I be clear? Is this what you're saying? Cecilia's dropping some great tools in the chat there. Amy Cuddy's famous TED Talk. Yeah, she talks about the power pose, doesn't she, Cecilia, in that one? Yeah. This one's a really interesting sales one. So if you've got somebody that's being objectionable and giving you excuses for why they can't do something, you remember this alliteration, feel, felt, found. But I do say use this one with caution. Cecilia will often say, if you say to somebody, I understand how you feel, it can be a bit of dangerous territory because sometimes you don't understand how people feel and you can't possibly understand. However, you can say things like, other people in your situation have felt the same way, you're not alone. Or I've felt the same way, I've felt the same way. I understand how you're feeling, it's frustrating. I've felt the same way myself. So you can see I'm using that alliteration. Understand this feels really frustrating. I've felt frustrated about this too when I was doing this process. What I've found is if you do this first and then do this, it works much better. It's just a formula to create empathy. However, as I said, use it sparingly. Only if you have really valid, legitimate story that can align to what they're saying. Otherwise, it could backfire. And this is a classic one, which I love, and I used to use in when I worked for an entrepreneur all the time. If I had people that were really angry, same in mediation. What's going to make this right? What is going to make, what would you like to see happen in this situation? And for a lot of people, often in conflict or tensions, they just want to be heard. So if you've got somebody that you're dealing with that's really, really difficult, simply ask them, what would you like from me in this situation? What can I do to make this right for you? If they're really, really angry with you. And sometimes it's just they want you to understand and to listen. So we want to stay in the positive. So these are different ways to, here's some really quick, simple tricks that you can use. Tessa, you say, how do you start some of these difficult conversations? I love this one, is if you just start with, you know how. One, it's a question. It's great to be curious and open with a question. You know how you called me Bibbidi Bob in the meeting yesterday? I might be wanting to address that and give some feedback. They may say, did I? I don't remember doing that. And you go, okay, they're unconscious of their behavior. Or they can go, yeah, what about it? We're setting a framework for what we're about to talk about when you say you know how. And if you just start with you know how, the rest falls off your tongue easily. So a lot of people go to me, oh, I just don't know how to start. I don't know where to start with this difficult conversation. What do I start with? Try that. It's a really simple one to remember. This is my favorite tool that Dr. John Hinwood, my mentor, namesake for our company, this is his one. I love it. Thanks for sharing. If someone's giving you lots of shoulds, oh, you should do this, and oh, you should do that, and what did you do that for? And if I was you, I would do this, and da 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 da. We can either get very defensive, well, hang on a minute, blah 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 blah, or we can get passive. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, yes, well, how silly of me. Yes, I should have. If you say thanks for sharing, it just neutralizes it. So you don't have to be sarcastic and go, thanks for sharing. But you can say, thanks for that feedback. Thanks for that information. Thanks for sharing that with me. That's it. So you're acknowledging that you've heard them. You're not ignoring them, but you're not going any further with it. And it's really good to kind of stop that berated lecture that you're getting from somebody. So powerful. This is another one, absolutely love. Here's a bit of homework. I want you to listen for how often you say, but. So if you're dealing with someone difficult at work and you want to counteract what they're saying, yes, but there's a reason I had to do this because we got to do this. Yes, but you know that this is really important and that's why I've had to do it. You're putting up an objection to somebody and then we start getting into tensions. If you say yes and, it means I'm in alignment with you. Yes, I did do that project first. And the reason I did that is because we've got to get this out of the way before we start all of those other ones. So I'm agreeing with you and I'm giving you another perspective as well. It's a really powerful one that I would love for you to practice. Just start by listening for how often you say but, stop and think, could I put and in that sentence? And how would it change how I'm delivering it? So these tools will be in the cheat sheet for you. I've finished a little bit early, which is good. We managed to get through so much content. I want to hear from any of you. Cecilia's going to be preparing our little magic wheel while I do this, but I want to hear from you if any of you have got any questions, any advice, any feedbacks, any TED Talks, any research. What have you tried? What's backfired? Anyone feel comfortable to share?
Barbara, I've got an influencer, for want of a better phrase, a personality on social media that I follow, who's an American gentleman who's a prosecutor. in the legal field, and he shares his tips and tricks that he's learned over his career. And a lot of them have a lot in common with everything that you've shared today. I'll jump into my phone and find his name
Yes,
and put his link.
please.
I'll put his
Yeah.
details in the chat for everybody. I've found him hugely beneficial, and he has a fantastic tone and delivery, much like yourselves, really quite stable but firm, kind but strong, and uh, and he has some fantastic phrases that I've actually made note of in the last few. It's like my own little research project. So I'll put his details in the chat for everyone.
That's awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And I love it. Even if after this masterclass, you'll get some cheat sheets and information and resources from us. But come back to us, reply to an email. We
Yeah,
want to be responsive to what people are finding and learning out there. Thank you,
yeah,
Lisa.
yeah. You've covered lots of them. I'll put it in the chat.
I will definitely check it out, Lisa. I look forward to getting the
Yeah,
details.
he's really good.
Okay, I'm giving you sharing rights now. Cecilia, are you ready with the wheel? So here's
Yes,
the
I
book.
am.
So this is the book that I'm going to give to you. You may have seen this in the airport. You often see this one in the airport. It's called Surrounded by Idiots. That will be the book that I'm going to send to you if you are the winner. And so we do this at the end of, if you haven't been to a masterclass before, Paul knew what we were talking about before because for anyone that stays to the end, we do a wheel spin. Cecilia's got it ready there. Look at that. That's amazing. Over to you, Cecilia. If you go.
Okay, are we ready? Let's spin.
Woo! Is Georgia still here?
Is Georgia here?
No, I can't see her.
Okay, we'll spin
We've
again.
got to
Let's
spin
remove
again.
Georgia.
Okay. Tessa! Yay! Tessa, well done.
Congratulations, Tessa.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So Tessa, if can you please, I'll send you a message afterwards, but we need your postal address so that I
Sure.
can send that to you. And what I would love, what we want to do is when you get it, if you feel comfortable, take a little selfie with the book. Yeah, because
Okay.
we want to show people these are all the people that have won a book by attending our masterclass. And look, on that note, too, if the reason we do this and the reason there is no sales in any of what we're doing here is because we want you to go and spread the word. We want you to share the TED Talks, the cheat sheets, the resources. We want you to go and tell somebody, I went to this masterclass and I got great value. You should come along too. Because all of the work that we do get is because somebody else is telling somebody else about what we offer. So that is why we do this for free and don't have any sales in what we do. So that is our only ask of you. You can, if you want to, we'd love to. I often put stuff on LinkedIn afterwards. So if you want to join with me on LinkedIn and share any insights, any like Lisa's stuff, any other, oh, Lisa's just popped it in there, the Instagram link. But if there's any other insights or thoughts or things that you've got and found, please pop it in LinkedIn. If you want to do recommendations or anything, that'd be great. But I'm going to hang around for a little minute or two. We've still got a little bit of time if anybody has any other questions or thoughts. Otherwise, it's been lovely, but I'm happy to hang for a bit. And I'm going to just share that slide again if you want to. That's for a Google review or different ways that you can connect with us if you need to. Anyone have any questions? And if you don't have to stay. Oh, we've got another YouTube one there as well. Oh, Lisa, you're a wealth of information. See you at the next one, Ola. Thank you.
Thanks so much. That was great.
Thanks, Tessa. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
And
I'll
yeah,
look out for future ones.
make sure you send me your postal address, yeah?
Will do. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for your wonderful
bye, Tessa.
contribution. I really
Yep.
appreciate it.
I've taken heaps of notes. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
See you again soon.
Bye, Vanessa.
Bye. Kendra, you still there? Do you have any questions?
Sorry, no, nothing for me. Thank you so much for today. So I'm just a little bit busy trying
No
to
worries.
100 things at
No,
once, but thanks. Yeah, really informative stuff.
no worries. Thanks,
Yeah.
Kendra.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Kendra.
Good day. Bye.
I will just stop my sharing and stop the recording.